there's a certain feeling when you get to unbox a new Samsung phone. It doesn't really matter if it's the top tier Ultra or something more modest. There is a level of polish that just feels very safe. But lately I've been asking myself whether being safe is enough when you're spending close to 2,000 ringgit, and I've been living with the Galaxy A37 for the past 2 weeks, and while it looks like $1,000,000, the actual experience has been a bit of a roller coaster. It's a device that balances incredible long-term promises against some very real day-to-day frustrations. Let's check it out. So when I first pulled this out of the box, I genuinely had to double check the model name because Samsung has been the masters of trickling down design. So the A37 has this gorgeous mirrored glass finish on the back that catches the light in a way that feels incredibly premium. It also has those familiar rounded corners we see across all their flagship lineup, where they've added just enough rounding so it doesn't dig into your palms. At 196 grams, it has a reassuring weight to it, and it feels dense and well put together. And holding it in this awesome charcoal color, which is actually the name for this phone, you easily mistake this for a device that is twice its price. And if I hold up the S26 Plus that I have here, apart from the color and also the thicker bezel at the front, it's one of those phones that really looks great on the table. But as I started using it, it really feels that the premium feel was mostly only skin deep. So the moment the screen lit up, the classic Samsung magic does kick in, and you're gonna get this 6.7-inch Super AMOLED panel, and even though it only hits 1080p resolution, the vibrancy here is undeniably good. Everything that you see here pops, and the 120Hz refresh rate makes scrolling through my feeds feel very fluid. And plus, this is a very budget-friendly mid-range phone, and you're already getting 120Hz. The brightness level definitely is impressive enough that I never struggle to see my notifications even under midday sun. Inside here, Samsung is being quite generous with the storage, having 256GB out of the box coupled with a 12GB of RAM, so you're no longer seeing 128GB here. It's great for this price point, but because of the lack of storage expansion, people who need larger storage may stray away from this phone. But for most people looking at this range of phone, it gives plenty of breathing room for apps as well as 4K video files. However, the display is also where I hit my first major snag. The optical fingerprint sensor sits under the glass, and to be honest, it's been a test of patience. It's slow in some ways, often taking a full second or two to register, or sometimes failing entirely. I found myself pulling my finger away thinking I missed, only for the phone to unlock maybe a second later. It's also a software update from being fixed, hopefully, but right now it's a friction point I didn't expect. And comparing this to the S26 Plus, which is extremely precise and fast, this is where you start to see the budget mid-range price point of the phone actually is. It's also an unfair comparison because I just came from reviewing the S26 Plus and the Ultra, and now the A37. Anyways, under the hood, the A37 is powered by Exynos 1480 chipset, and in daily use, navigating through One UI is generally very smooth, but I did notice the occasional stutter when jumping between heavy apps. It's a bit of a trade-off, and on one hand, you get the absolute best software support in the price bracket with 6 generations of OS updates and 6 years of security patches, and that's really unheard of for a sub 2,000 ringgit phone. On the other hand, the Exynos chip does feel like it's working really hard to keep up. Connectivity has been solid though. With Wi-Fi 6 and Bluetooth 5.3 support, my connection to my home network and my wireless earbuds remain rock steady. And this phone even supports eSIM, which is a nice touch for travelers, and is a really dependable workhorse even if it isn't a sprinting champion. For media consumption, the A37 uses a stereo speaker setup. It's loud and clear enough for watching your YouTube videos in quiet room, though it does lack the deep resonance I find in the S series of phone. When I threw on some of my favorite tracks, the sub bass was a little bit thin, and the soundstage does felt relatively narrow. The mid vocals does come through cleanly, which is great for podcasts or calls, and the highs are crisp without becoming piercing. Now let's talk about the cameras. Because this is where most of you will be spending your time, the A37 carries a triple thread on the back, led by a 50 megapixel main sensor with optical image stabilization. During the day, the results are classic Samsung. You get beautiful saturated colors, great dynamic range, and plenty of detail. The OIS really helps keep things sharp, especially if your hands aren't perfectly still. The 8 megapixel ultra wide is pretty standard and it's great for capturing landscape, though you do notice a little bit of drop off in detail compared to the main lenses, as well as comparing to many other phones with an upgraded ultra wide sensor. There's also a 5 megapixel macro lens for those close-up shots, which is fun to play with. For a while, I think it's a novelty thing, but I still prefer a telephoto lens. For most day-to-day use, this is actually plenty sufficient, especially if you don't pixel peep. Low-light photography is where I was mostly surprised because usually mid-range phones does fall short when the sun goes down. But the A37 held up very well. Night mode shots take a few seconds to process because of the processor limitation, but the end results are clean with very little noise. And this year, the night mode capability is exactly what Samsung is boasting about. The 12 megapixel front camera also does a respectable job with skin tones for selfies. While it's not a flagship level system, the software optimization makes it one of the most reliable cameras in this budget. On the video standpoint, pretty good for a mid-range phone to be able to capture 4K at 30 frames per second, which looks great for most of your social media clips. So one of the perks of using a more efficient mid-range chipset is the endurance. The 5000 mAh battery is a beast. Even with a heavy day of filming and testing, I consistently made it from dawn to dusk with room to spare. For most people, this is a very comfortable one-day phone, and light users might even push it into a second day. When you do need to top up, it supports 45 watts of charging via USB-C. It's not the fastest out there in the market today compared to some of the Chinese competitors, but it's a massive step up for Samsung A series. Just like every other Samsung device today, you're going to need to provide your own compatible PD chargers, but once you have one, it does get charged up to full relatively quickly. So where does the Samsung Galaxy A37 land? It's a bit of a complicated story. On one side, you have a generous design, a beautiful display, and a camera that punches way above its weight in low light. Plus, you get the incredible 6-year update promise that gives this phone a lot of long-term value. However, at the sub 2000 ringgit market, it's facing some stiff competition from other brands with slightly snappier user experience and more bells and whistles to offer. If you personally value security, brand reliability, and a stellar camera, then the A37 is a very safe bet. But you have to be willing to live with a temperamental fingerprint sensor and as well as a processor that likes to take its time. It's not a spec beast per se, but for the person who wants a phone that will last them till like 2032, it's a compelling, albeit controversial choice. If you enjoyed this video, like and subscribe to the channel, and if you want more reviews like this, check out these videos up here.